Hello, everyone. Welcome to Whispers of the Blind. We're a Vampire the Masquerade LARP based here in Los Angeles, California. I'm Jennifer Wolf. I'm the head storyteller for Whispers of the Blind. And most of you are watching this because you have signed up for our game. Thank you. Yay. We're so happy to have you. And we're very excited to have you come to our game. But for many of you, this is the first time you've ever, LARPed. You've never played Vampire, you've never played a LARP, you've never done an RPG, or you may have done one or all of those things. It's hard to say, but we all come from different backgrounds when it comes to role playing games. And so, one of the things we noticed with some of our new people signing up is that, we give you a character sheet and you're like, what in the world is this thing that they just handed me? It looks like an Excel document with all these fancy bells and whistles. And you're right, it is an Excel document with all these fancy bells and whistles. But that Excel document is your character sheet. And that's your tool that you use when you come to game when you're playing and engaging with Whispers of the Blind. So rather than just throwing it at you and hoping you figure it out and having you walk in blind your first game, panicked and not knowing what's going on, we thought we would do a little bit of a presentation for you just to walk you through the basics of what your character sheet is and what to expect, and hopefully at least give you enough of an explanation that you can just walk into the game and have fun. Because the number one axiom I have for game is the Douglas Adams axiom, which is don't panic. So hopefully we can clear some of your questions up with this presentation. So, what's Whispers of the Blind? Well, Whispers of the Blind is, like I said, a live action role playing troupe. And we play Vampire the Masquerade, which is a RPG or a role playing game. It's been around since 1993. And you'll find that many of the players in the game have been playing the game for a little while. Some have been playing it since the 90s, some have been playing it just in the last few years. There's a wide range of experience. So don't feel like you're walking in the game and like everyone's so much better than me. That's not the case. Some of us have been playing it for a long time, but the great thing about Whispers and about Vampire the Masquerade and troop games in general is that we're a community and we're all here to help each other out. So don't worry, you will somebody is here to hold your hand, make sure you have a good time, and explain any questions that you have. All right. Now, one of the fun things about Vampire the Masquerade is the fact that, you're playing a vampire. You're the monster. You are playing a creature who lives off the blood of human beings and can only go out during the evening hours. And that can create some fun stories. You can be anything. You can be a truly horrific creature, or you can be a tragic victim of circumstance, or you can be the newbie who is just trying to figure this all out. Any and all those stories are perfectly valid, and all of you are going to have different stories that you can create for yourselves within the larger framework of the game that we are creating for you. So, as part of that, this is still a game. I mean, you all get to create your characters, but you're a character within a game setting and in a game world. So, in that sense, Vampire is pretty much like Dungeons and Dragons for any of you who've had experience playing that or any other role playing game out there on the market. And in a lot of ways, it's very similar to video games too. So, just like in D&D or video games, your character has certain statistics that you use to kind of help determine how this imaginary character you're playing operates. Are they smart? Are they dumb? Are they a good dancer? Do they like flowers? Are they allergic to pumpkins? All these things are going to have some sort of statistical representation on a piece of paper that helps you, the player, know, well, what's up with my character? And it's not just about what your character likes and doesn't like. Are they allergic to pumpkins and what happens if they accidentally eat a pumpkin? It's also about having that character operate within a certain rule set. So Vampire the Masquerade does have rules, and just like D&D, it has its own game supplement. And what these sheets do is it helps your character operate within the rules of the game. And it also helps even the playing field so that all of you know exactly how powerful or how cool or how evil your character is in relation to each other. So what your character sheet will represent then is how your character fits within the rule set of the game. So your sheet also will tell you a few other key things. It's going to tell you what the history of your character is. So no character it comes out of nothingness. No character is created in a vacuum. Every character has a history. Who were they before? What were they once they became a vampire? What has happened to them since? It's sort of the backstory of where you're coming from in game, and it helps direct you as you're playing through the night or through the chronicle. It also tells you what you can and can't do. Can you punch really hard? Are you smart enough to figure out that puzzle? Those things are going to be quantified on your character sheet. And your character sheet is also going to contain your goals. So, what are the things your character wants long term, short term? What are things that they're going to want to achieve? Because every character wants to achieve something. No character is ever going to just going to want to sit on a couch and do nothing. So, each of these sheets is set up according to a system that you can find in the By Night Studios Mind's Eye Theater Player's Guide. This is the rule set we are using for this LARP. So if you don't have a copy, I highly recommend getting a copy. There are PDF versions you can get to download. There's also hard copies you can order via Amazon, via DriveThruRPG. And this is sort of our Bible. This is our go-to when there's a game question or I don't understand what a discipline is or, you know, what's a bruja? This is our Bible. This is our reference. This is our Wikipedia. This is what you'll use. And every character sheet is built according to the rules found in this book. So I highly recommend going and getting this. And as you're reading through your character sheet, if you don't know something, go look it up in the book. It will explain exactly how a character is created, what's the rationale behind why things are, and what in the world a Bruja is. So, if you've had a chance to speak to John Long, who is the assistant storyteller for Whispers, you have been assigned a character sheet. Now, chances are pretty high that he probably has emailed it to you or has sent you a link via Facebook Messenger. So, if you have spoken to John and haven't received a sheet, go double check your email or go double check your messenger. John probably has sent a link to you. We do all of our character sheets via Google Docs, and the reason for this is quite simply because Google Docs allows us to create our own character sheets, and we can use formulas to help calculate statistics on the character sheet, and it allows us to update it very easily to give you real-time updates. So should you be in the middle of game and you realize, oh my gosh, I was supposed to have more physicals than this game, you can go to a storyteller, we can whip out our phone, we can make the change. All you have to do is refresh and bam, there's your character sheet. So this also helps us save a few trees because we're not printing them out every single time. And it also ensures that we can help you keep an eye on your character and that your XP is spent correctly and that your all the expenditures that you wanted to make have been done. Now, on that note, if you take a notice of your sheet and you try to click on something or try to change something, you'll notice you actually can't change it. We actually set the privacy notices on there to allow you to comment but not change. And that's only because only the staff can change a character sheet. We want to keep it fair that way. So if you are looking at your character sheet and you're like, gee, um, I thought I had more points and mentals than this. Like we said, come and talk to us. But also too, as a new player, if you're looking at your sheet and you're like, wow, I'm not sure I like this, and can I maybe change this thing? feel free to also message us. I do allow for 3 changes before game. I also allow you to always change your character name. And you are allowed to add to your histories if you wish, if you want to give like deeper backstory or add a lost evil twin sister for just for flavor. Feel free. You are able to do that. All you have to do is get a hold of your clan coordinator. And every clan has a coordinator that's a member of staff who's responsible for looking out for your clan and you as a player and your character sheet. Just get a hold of them. We'll make those changes for you. And we'll be happy to do any edits that you need. So now that you have your character sheet, well, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, so what does it mean? I have this fancy Google Doc with all the bells and whistles, and I don't know what any of these boxes mean or any of these numbers or, what's a Bruja again? If you've never played either Vampire the Masquerade or the By Night Studios system for Vampire the Masquerade, it's all going to be weird. I'm just going to warn you, it's going to be weird. And that's okay. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. I know that it took me a long time to figure out all the rules differences with By Night Studios, and it took me a long time to even figure out how to play Vampire. It's completely normal to feel that way. So I wanted to take us all step by step through an explanation of everything that you see on your sheet. So first of all, if you look up the left corner of your sheet, you'll see a box. And that box basically says, who am I? Who are you? Who are any of us? Basically, this is the most basic information on your character, what their name is, what their clans are. This is the stuff you're going to reference right from the top so you can kind of get an idea of your character. Now you'll see right there at the topmost, it says character name. And this character is named Example McAssamite. So Example McAssamite is the name of our not so clever sample character here. Every character is going to have a name. And like I said just now, I allow for character name changes. Now we usually give a name to our characters we assign, partly so we can just keep track of the characters, but also too because honestly, names are one of the hardest things to think up of on the fly. So sometimes we just assign names because that saves you from having to assign a name. But if you get Example McAssamite and you're like, I want to name him Bob the Assamite, that's quite all right. Just like I said, let us know. We'll change the name. You don't have to be married to the name unless there's a real good reason for it. So right below the character name is the character archetype. Now the archetype is very much a Jungian concept for those of you who are up and up on your psychology. It's sort of like a basic word that describes your character and everything about them. So Example McAssamite here, he is a chameleon archetype, which means obviously he likes to shift and change himself to fit whatever the situation is, kind of like a chameleon. And there are different archetypes out there. There's bon vivant or pedagogue or thrill seeker, or there's many different archetypes found in Vampire the Masquerade. It's basically a one word descriptive of who and what your character is all about. So following that on the list there, just below it, you see this word generation, and above it, it says neonate 13. So Example McAssamite here is a neonate of the 13th generation. Now, what in the world does that mean? So in Vampire the Masquerade, the way that a character's potency, strength level is assessed is by their generation. And there's a whole long mythology behind that. If you want to know the mythos behind what generation stands for, feel free to go read it in the BNS book. Believe me, it's there. You don't necessarily need to know the myths before you walk into game. All you need to know is that the potency of a vampire is determined by generation. The closer to number 1 you are, the more powerful you are. The further away from number 1 you are, the less powerful you are. Now, most characters are going to be kind of in the mid-range. You're going to be 8th through 13th generations. Characters who are more powerful than that are kind of scary, and they're very rare. And you'll also start seeing in this game more characters who are 14th and 15th generations. These are pretty weak vampires. I mean, they're almost human vampires. They're very weak. So all this number indicates is just kind of like how powerful are you, and what kind of what at what level can you do powers. This can change, but the way that you can change it is not particularly savory. So most characters don't necessarily change their generation. You're pretty much stuck with this one. But that's okay, because you can still do some spiffy things with it. So over here you'll see player name, and that's you. For example, McAssamite, he is James Dean. James Dean is playing example McAssamite. This is so we know who has example McAssamite. Pretty self-explanatory. Now the title here is neonate, and you're like, wait a minute, didn't you just say a neonate's a generational thing? Yeah. Title for a character sheet indicates whether a character has a certain level of status within the game. In this game, we run a Camarilla court. The Camarilla is a very fiefdom-based feudalistic type of Game of Thrones situation that's ruled over by a prince, and the prince has a court, and everyone has a pecking order in it. If you have a title in the prince's court, then your title's going to be there. It's going to say prince, or it's going to say sheriff, or it's going to say keeper of Elysium, or whatever froofy pompous title the prince has going on. Most everyone else is either going to not have a title, or it's going to say, I am an ancilla, I am a neonate, because that's the kind of status you hold in the court. You're known by your generation. You know, and neonates kind of are on the bottom of the pecking order. Other titles that can be found there, if you have a Camarilla wide title, like an Archon, it will be found there. And if you have a title within your clan, such as a regent in Clan Tremere, or a board member in Clan Ventrue, your title will be found there. And this is a way that you can reference, and we, the staff, can reference to know, oh yeah, this person's kind of important. They're kind of a big deal. And just below that, you'll find your clan. And your clan is, well, what you're playing. And everyone is assigned to a clan. There are several different clans in game. This one, example McAssamite, happens to be a Assamite, as a matter of fact. So what this tells you is that you're not only a part of a clan, but if you are a part of a particular group within the clan, like this guy, he's an Assamite warrior, so it indicates what subgroup within a clan you're a part of. And it also gives you your clan flaw. Every clan has a flaw, every one of them. Assamites happen to have 3 of them. For the Assamite warriors, they're addicted to Vitae. So it says here, he's an Assamite warrior who's addicted to Vitae. It's a quick reference guide. If you're new and you're like, oh, I know I'm a Ventrue, but what's my clan flaw? Your clan flaw is you have a particular taste for blood, so you can only drink certain types of blood. All you have to do is look right there, and you'll find out what your clan and your flaw is. Now, clan coordinator. Clan coordinators, like I said, are members of staff who are in charge of a particular clan and everybody in it. And every staff member has at least one, if not more, clans assigned to them. Now, in this example, I said that myself, Jennifer Wolf, is assigned to example McAssamite, which is not completely true. If he were in game, he'd actually be assigned to John. But in this example, he's assigned to me. That's the person you need to go to ask your questions, get your downtimes done, fix your character sheet, talk to them about game issues. That's your main point person. Now, that's not to say you can't talk to any one of us, but if you need to have a one singular go-to, it's going to be your clan coordinator, because they'll be the one who's most in tune with you and what your character is up to. Start date is just really when did we start playing the character, and then total XP unspent. That's a quick cheat sheet cheat for you. That's just a little look to see how much XP you have on this character. Um, Everyone earns at least 3 XP, 3 to 4 XP every game. And you can bank that XP. You don't have to spend it right away. So this is a quick way to see how much XP do I have that I haven't spent yet. In case you're saving up to buy that one really cool spiffy power, then you can take a look and say, I have 20 XP. I can go buy a cool spiffy power. So the next section we're going to cover is what's called the starting character concept section. And this is basically what your character's all about. What am I? What are any of us? This gives you a little snapshot, a little glimpse at who your character is. So the concept for this character is he's an amazing Asimite assassin. That tells you really briefly what's up with this character. This is not the character's history. This is not their entire backstory. It's not all about the time when they were 12 when, the bully at school beat them up. That's not here. This is just a quick snapshot of who and what your character is all about. Then what your character is good at. So, example McAssamite is really good at doing all the Assamite things. Every character is going to be good at something. Maybe you're good at spying. Maybe you're good at doing blood magic. Maybe you're great at bullying other people around. Whatever that is, you'll find it there. And it's just a quick way for you to kind of glance through and go, oh, okay, this is what my character is really all about and what they can do really, really well. The next section I'm going to kind of direct your eyes to is the section that is titled Attributes. Attributes should be right underneath the section where you have your name and your clan and all that. And attributes basically tell you how strong, how social, or how smart am I. So example McAssamite here has attributes that indicate he is very good with the physicals, not so great with the mentals. So attributes really are just a kind of quick and easy way to know kind of what your character is really good at. Are they strong? Are they smart? Can they charm their way out of everything? If you have a high in one area and a low in another area, it probably just really indicates that you've, for one reason or the other, hyper specialized in one area over the other. Maybe it's because you liked going to the gym a lot, but you didn't like reading so much. There could be any number of reasons why a number is higher in one area and lower in another, and these can also be bolstered as you play through the game. As you get XP, you can actually spend XP to help grow your physicals and grow your mentals and grow your socials. So physicals pretty much they are what they say on the tin. They are all your physical attributes. It's everything that makes you strong or fast or swift or quick. All those things that have to do with the physical aspect of the body. So anything you do in game that's physical, like punching something or running away from something, you will use your physicals. For your socials, those are all the more social things. So if you want to charm someone or manipulate someone or convince someone you're pretty, socials would be the way to do it. It's more of those social interactions. And mentals have to do with anything mentally you're doing. So you want to cast a spell or force your will on someone or figure out a puzzle. Mentals would be the attribute you use for that. So over here you see the numbers. Every character is going to be assigned a specific attribute at a specific number. BNS has a standard 753. So at character creation, you will have 7 and 1, 5 and another, and 3 and a third. If the character is created with more than that, it's because we've spent creation XP to kind of up the ante on it, as it were. But you're at least going to have that much in any one of those. And these numbers kind of indicate which one you're best at, which one you're least best at. And these serve as your base modifiers when you are running tests in game. So if you need to figure out like, okay, I want to punch something, and I want to punch it really, really hard. what is my test pool for that? These attributes are the base of your test pool. Over here you see these foci. That's what they're called. Their focuses, foci. And each foci is going to be different. These foci are tied both to your attributes, but they're also tied to your disciplines. So if you're really good at physicals, you're also going to be specifically good at one thing. So example, McAssamite, he's really, really great physically, but he's best at being strong. He's not as great as being fast, but he's best at being strong. So this kind of helps, explain like what the character's all about. He's a strong guy. He's not a fast guy, he's a strong guy. But this also then ties to a discipline that he's using because each discipline is tied to one of these foci. And I'll get into that a little bit more with disciplines. And up here at the top, you'll see this idea of initiative. You'll hear us use initiative a lot when there's combat. So initiative it's the idea of who gets to go when in a combat. For D&D players, you know initiative like the back of your hand. That's just a quick and dirty way to go, what would my initiative be if I were engaging in physical attack in a combat? So after attributes, I would focus you down to below that to abilities. Abilities are what can I do? These are the things that your character is specifically good at. Either they knew it as a human or they've learned it since they were a vampire, but they're all the skills that your character has picked up along the way. Abilities, there's a whole bunch of different ones, and there's different ones that you can have for different things depending on different powers or like different things you're good at. The standard for most abilities is you get one ability at 4, 2 at 3, 3 at 2, and 4 at 1. Pretty much when these characters are built, we try to give as many as are necessary evaluation, even if it's just at 1, because a lot of times, you need to have a, melee so you can use your sword, and you're really good at melee. Example, McAssamite here is great at melee. But he also needed to have a brawl too, because the dude likes to go and fight. So we didn't have necessarily all the points in the world to put into it, but we made sure he at least had one brawl. So he's maybe not great at brawl, but he's good enough he can throw a punch. So we try to cover as many of them as we can. As I said, the higher the number, the better you are at it. So example here, he's really great at the melee, and he's really great at stealth and being sneaky, and he's really great at being at subterfuge and hiding who he is. And that makes sense if you know that his nature is chameleon. So it sounds like example McAssamite here, he's kind of a sneaky dude who can be a spy and also kick a little ass while he's at it. So these are all very important. The numbers here are all very important as we get to talking about test pools. So keep these numbers in mind. Yes, you can see here I gave him a 1 in brawl just to make sure that he has something in it. So, 4 means he's pretty kick-ass. 1 means he can at least do it. He can throw a punch. He's not so bad. Now, if you don't have anything in a box for a skill, it means you don't have it. And that doesn't necessarily penalize you, except that if you're trying to, say, dodge a punch, you don't have anything to add to your test pool. So what does that mean? It means that you have to just basically go off your base physicals, which thankfully for example McAssamite here, he has 7 physicals. So maybe he might just get lucky and dodge it. But if, let's say I am Wimpy McToreador and I only have 3 physicals, chances of you dodging aren't so good. So that's kind of the problem of having nothing in a specific ability. So if there's one that you want, save your XP. You can buy more. Now over here you'll see these little drop down menus that look blank right now. Some of you will have some abilities listed there, and that's because these are secondary abilities. And secondary abilities are hyper specific abilities that your character may have for one reason or the other, but they're not the most common ones. The ones listed here are the most common. So if you have one on your sheet, uh, you're cool. You have a cool ability no one else has. And if you have any questions about it or how it works, just feel free to come and ask one of your clan coordinators. So down here you see this thing called common trait pools. Trait pools are, just like in D&D or video games, these are what you test with. And essentially what it is if you want to do any action in the game, then you are going to add your attributes, which are your physicals, your mentals, your socials, and your abilities, which are the things listed here. And sometimes you can also add on a discipline if a discipline gives you an extra boost in whatever you're trying to do. I'll explain some of the more common trait pools later, but this is what abilities do. You add them with your attributes and whatever spiffy things your disciplines and other things give you, and this gives you a pool to kind of test with against someone else. So say I want to punch someone, but they don't want to be punched, so they're dodging, and you both test, you tie, you say, okay, well, what's your test pool? And they tell you, I'm a wimpy toreador. I only have a 3 test pool. You look at your sheet and you're like, well, I have definitely 7 physicals. And then I look on my sheet and I have 1 brawl, so that gives me 8 right there. And then I know over on my disciplines, I have this power called potence, and it's going to give me a little bit extra. It's going to give me a +2, so that gives me 10. 10 definitely outbids the Toreador's 3, which means you're going to knock them flat on their ass. So that's how common trait pools work. The next area I'm going to direct you to is called the ability specializations. So these are certain ones of the abilities you saw on there are very broad categories. There are things like languages and lores and academics, or medicine. These are all areas that cover a broad range of things that you can have specific knowledge in. And so ability specializations basically allows us to list for you what are your specializations in languages or lores or academics or medicine. So, for example, here, example McAssamite. He has a lore 3. What are his lores? He has lore Assamite, lore Nosferatu, and lore Camarilla. So he has special knowledge about all 3 of those subjects and can probably talk about them ad nauseum. He also has a dot in linguistics. So linguistics gives you a language. Now, for most everyone, a dot in linguistics gives you a language. And he has 1 dot. Well, I'm assuming example McAssamite here didn't speak English naturally. He didn't grow up speaking it. So he probably speaks some language, Turkish or Farsi or Arabic or, whatever was common to his homeland. So his 1 in the linguistics is for English, so he can speak in English to all the rest of you in game. If you have a linguistics, you will have listed here any languages you speak. And most of them are going to be the broad languages. They're not going to be dialects. So you're going to speak the French and the German or Mandarin or Swahili, whatever language you have. Tremere characters, you're going to have a language called Enochian. And Enochian, all the Tremere will have and no one else has. And unless you happen to be a blood thaumaturge trained in hermetic magics, you're not going to know what it is either. So, but if you're Tremere and you're like, what's this Enochian? That's what that is. So don't worry, it is an imaginary made up language for this game. See, here we have, he is skilled in his Assamite lore, he is skilled in his English. Okay, so up next, I'm moving us over to disciplines, and you'll find that on the far right-hand side of your sheet. Now, disciplines are essentially, well, vampiric superpowers. They are the cool, spiffy things you can do because you are a vampire. And every clan has specific disciplines they're good at. So the disciplines you get assigned are the ones that are assigned to you because you're an Assamite, you're a Toreador, you're a Ventru. So example McAssamite here has the disciplines of Celerity, Obfuscate, and Quietus. Now, these are the ones that are all in clan, for example. And he can buy any of these at what we call in clan costs. That means they're at a slightly cheaper rate for you because it comes naturally to you. You can learn other disciplines, and if you find someone who can be a teacher, you can learn other disciplines for an out of clan cost. And that's because it comes a little harder to you. It's not natural. And all the mechanic for how that all works can be found in the MET player's guide. So, example here, he's good at being fast, which is celerity. He's good at hiding, which is obfuscate. And he's good at being very, very quiet to do his attacks. So it's quietus. Each of these powers has different levels and different abilities. And you can see over here on the far right that you are given a number valuation. Every character is going to be good at certain powers and maybe not as great as other powers, or they may have just super focused on one discipline and not focused as much on the other two. And that's quite common. Now, in the by night system, you start with one discipline at two and two other disciplines at one. So here, for example, McAssamite, we've spent some starting XP to kind of up at least one of his disciplines a little bit higher to get him up to three, which gives him about mid-range in Obfuscate. And seems to indicate he likes to hide. Given his entire clan background, or entire character background thus far, he seems to be a sneaky person who likes to hide and stab things. So obfuscate, that's where he's throwing his energies. Each one of your characters is going to have something different that they focus on. A Tremere may focus more on thaumaturgy and not focus at all on their other disciplines. A Bruja may focus equally on all three of their disciplines so that they're a well-rounded character. It's completely up to you how you want to do it. But each of these numbers aligns to a particular level of the power. So disciplines each have levels 1 through 5, and each level corresponds to a spiffy thing you can do. So level 1 obfuscate means you can maybe just hide, do some very basic hiding, while level 5 obfuscate means you can do some pretty advanced stuff that messes with people's heads. Each one of these disciplines has their powers listed out. You can find them in the By Night Studios book, or you can also find them on another tab on the sheet, and I'll explain more about that later. So again, these numbers not only indicate which ones you're best at, they also indicate at what level you're good at that particular power. So now we're going to move down to common trait pools. Now you heard me talking about trait pools when we were talking about skills earlier. These are the things that you use when you're doing your tests against other players. Well, not every trait pool is going to be something that you use very commonly. I mean, everything you do in the game is going to probably require a trait pool, whether you're hacking a computer or crawling into another person's window, or you're being charming and making someone like you. Those are all going to require trait pools, but they're not things you're going to be doing all the time. At least I'm hoping you're not crawling into strangers' windows all the time. But there are going to be some that you will reference all the time. And these common trait pools are the ones that you're going to reference all the time. And so these often come up because characters are going to be either combat heavy or they're going to use their disciplines a lot. And if your character is involved in a combat, when things are going fast and you're a new player and you're just trying to keep up and you're like, I don't know what's going on, doing the math to try and figure out what pool you need to have to punch that guy over there is just going to be annoying. So we don't want you to have to think about it. So we created a function that does it for you. Yay! I didn't create it. Someone much better at Google Docs and Excel did this for me. but these are the most common trait pools that you'll ever need to pull up in game. So, for example, we have over here Brawl. Brawl is one of the more common ones because let's just say you're in a fight and you want to go punch that guy over there. Brawl is the skill you'll want to use to punch that guy. And it's going to require that you have physicals. It's going to require that you have the brawl ability. And if you have the discipline potence, you can add that in there too. So you have to do all these quick calculations. But this handy pool drop down just says, oh, you have a bidding pool of 8. Yay! You have 8 to add to this initiative and when you're trying to punch that guy in the face. Okay? So that's all what these common traits are. So you'll see there's brawl, there's melee. Melee, of course, is when you're using melee weapons. Often that can be swords. People think of swords most often, but a baseball bat is a pretty darn good melee weapon. Guns are also pretty common. And dodge. Happens a lot when you're in a fight because you may have just smacked that guy in the face with a baseball bat, but you don't particularly want to get smacked back with the baseball bat yourself, so you have to dodge out of it. These are all the most common ones you're going to run into. Now, disciplines over here, these are the pools that you're going to use for disciplines. And not every discipline needs to have a pool to activate it or use its powers, but the ones that do, we have a discipline pool down there. So for example here, he has Quietus and he has Obfuscate. And so whenever he's doing anything that involves either Quietus or Obfuscate, he now has his pools. So he wants to go be super sneaky and spy on the Primogen in their super secret meeting. He wants to obfuscate himself. Well, what's his pool? His pool is 7. He has a bid pool of 7 against anyone who wants to test his obfuscate and see if they can see him being sneaky over there. So now I'm going to move you back up to the top of the page, and next to that name section there is this area called backgrounds. All the aspects of your life. Backgrounds are basically all the things that are going on in the background of your character. Like, what are they doing? Do they have friends? Do they have money? Do they have influence? These are the areas in life that they move in. And that's what backgrounds are all about. Now you'll see up at the top there's generation. And everyone has generation. Everybody has generation. You're all going to have a different number in generation. So generation basically indicates how potent of a vampire you are. We discussed this earlier. But generation's not the only one. You can have allies. You can have who are people who are buddies who help you out. You can have contacts who may get you information if you do a favor for them. You For example here, he has alternate identity, which means he has a whole other persona that he can take on and hide behind, or maybe he's already hiding behind that persona. Who knows? Um, you can have influence elite. Elite influences you have a pool in the high echelons of society, while underworld is, you know, the lower echelons, the criminals, the gangs, the dirty cops, what have you. Retainers are your servants, and resources is money. There's all these different backgrounds. So that's what these are all about. These are the things that your character has going on for them that help them along in the game. And you can see here, example has no influences in elite. None. None whatsoever. He has no pool with the elite. If you have nothing in the backgrounds area, that means you can't tap that. That is not an area you have access to. But you can eventually tap it if you spend some XP to grow your influences, or maybe gain a herd or buy a haven. Now you'll see over here, so there's retainers. An example doesn't have any retainers, but there are 2 boxes here. And the reason that there are 2 boxes here is he could maybe have more than 1 retainer. Or if you look up above, you can see with, for example, mentor / fame. there are two boxes there because one box is for mentor and one box is for fame. No, this is just a space saving. This is space saving on our part. So if you're a little confused as to which box means what, just feel free to ask. We'll help you clarify. And like I said, everyone has something in generation. Usually it's going to be one, two, or three. There shouldn't be any of you that have anything more than a three, because the higher you have in generation, the more powerful of a vampire you are. And well, there's a lot of plot reasons why that's a big deal, so I won't go into that anymore. So background notes. This is the box that's going to be just to the right of your backgrounds. And these are just notes on all of the different backgrounds you have. So because backgrounds are all different, sometimes we just want to throw some notes in there so you know what's going on. So for example, McAssamite here, he has generation as in Scylla, which is actually incorrect. If you have a generation 1, you're a neonate. But, you know, for whatever reason, the note here says you're an Ancilla. So, just reminding you what your generation is. Allies. Who are the guys that back example up in all of his night to night excursions? And then alternate identity. Oh wow! Example here has an alternate identity of being Bobby the Nosferatu neonate. Wonder what that's all about. I don't know. So, these are just notes for you, the player, so that you know that, okay, this is how my background is working. These are the people I know. This is what my alternate identity is all about. These are my retainers. We'll stick them all in that section. Sometimes I like to put some other notes in there because there's rando things that always pop up. So if you see something there and you're like, that has nothing to do with a background, and maybe that the person who created the sheet had something they needed to let you, the player, know, and they stuck it there just so you're aware that that's a situation. So for example, if you have the flaw prey exclusion, maybe I put a note there that says prey exclusion. I don't like to eat little girls. That came out really wrong, but that's the whole point, is that I am putting a note there so that you know that you don't like drinking the blood of little girls. So as you see here, he's got his allies, and now we're moving on to merits and flaws. So merits and flaws are the things that make your character unique. And I personally am a huge fan of merits and flaws because they help you kind of flesh out and orient a character. Like, you know, maybe they have this crazy flaw that means that they can't use their hands. How do they adapt to that? Or hey, maybe they have a really great merit that lets them do something really cool, like, you know, Thom better than anyone else. These are all different ways to kind of like add spice and flavor to your character. So a merit is basically something that your character is a benefit to your character, something that benefits your character in a way. Maybe they have a magical item that gives them +2 physicals anytime they use celerity, which adds to your trait pool. Um, Maybe they have a surprise attack, like example McAssamite here has. He can get the jump on you. So these merits are basically things that benefit your character in some really big way. For maybe you're a Ventrue who has Paragon, which means you have all the influences known to man, or you're a Tremere who has Talisman, which gives you an advantage on any thaumaturgy that you cast. All of these are supposed to be things that benefit your character. Now down here are flaws. And flaws are things that your character suffers from. Either they're mental flaws or physical flaws or social flaws, or, you know, sometimes they're magical flaws. You got cursed because that old witch lady thought you were suspicious looking, so now you have a mark in the middle of your forehead. Whatever. These are all things that hinder your character in some way, shape, or form. And they may not hinder your character horribly. It could be like very minor, like I have an intolerance for stupid people. means I lose my temper anytime one of them just shows up and I want to punch them in the face. Is it a hindrance? Yes. Is it a world ending hindrance? Well, depends on where you want to punch the person in the face. For the most part, no, it's not a world ending hindrance. Now, you'll notice here that merits and flaws each have a number assigned to them. And that's because, just like everything else, merits and flaws have levels and ranks. A level 3 merit is going to be cooler than a level 1 merit. And a level 5 flaw is going to be much more hardcore than a level 1 flaw. Most of you will probably have like a combination of all of the above. So you're going to have some medium-sized merits and some smaller merits, and they're all going to add up. Now, merits, you can only ever have up to 7 points in merits. And you can balance those merits out with up to 7 points in flaws. You can't have any more than that. Some of you may notice, hey, I have more flaws than I do merits. And that's because of some creative math on the part of whoever created your character. I tend to like the 7 and 7 balance. So the difference between the merits and flaws is that flaws, you can buy those off. So you can buy off your flaw. You don't have to keep your flaw forever. But in buying it off, we do ask that you role play out the buying off of the flaw. So for example, Dark Secret here, for example, make Asimite. What he does is he pays the XP to buy off that flaw. You can find that in the BNS book. And he says, Jen, I want to buy off my Dark Secret. And then we have a whole role-playing session where he role-plays how he gets rid of his Dark Secret. And that's how that happens. Merits, usually most people don't want to give up their merits unless they're getting another cool merit. So, because remember, those are things that benefit your character. So, current pools. How are current pools different from common trait pools? I know, it's a little confusing. So, by nature, just by being a vampire, you have certain things that you can access and certain things that you can do. It's just part of being a vampire. It's the facts of being a vampire. So every vampire is going to have a pool of willpower. Your willpower pool is, basically the will to do something. This is, this will be useful in certain tests. It's also useful to resist people who are trying to force their will upon you. It is also used as a retest when you lose a bidding test with someone else. So say, you're testing to punch that person in the face and they're going to try and dodge out of your punch. And you win. You had more traits than the wimpy Toreador over there. You had, 8 traits and they had 3 traits and you win. They say, well, I'm going to use a point of willpower to will myself to dodge out of that. And then you test again to see if they succeed. And if they win, wow, they really forced themselves out of the way of your swinging fist. That's what willpower is for. The mechanics on how willpower works can be found in the BNS book. And I'm going to refer to you to that just because there's no absolute question that is absolutely correct. My memory may be a little bit fuzzy. Current humanity. So most every vampire in the game is going to be on humanity. Vampires aren't human, but the ones in the Camarilla like to fake that they're being human. So humanity is your path of morality. It is the guiding light that you have to try and keep your sanity in this crazy, crazy world. Not every vampire is going to be humane, so they may not have humanity. They may be on a path of enlightenment, in which case they're following that instead of humanity. Your humanity pool is very important because there are going to be things that happen in game that are going to challenge that humanity. And when we call for a test that says, well, you need to test against your humanity, that's the pool that you use. Your beast traits, vampires, when they lose their temper, their worst id self sometimes comes out and tries to take over. And anytime that happens, you may have to use your beast trait pool in that test. That's what that has to deal with. Derangement traits. Not every character has a derangement. If you're a Malkavian, you absolutely do. If you're not a Malkavian, you may or may not have one. But if you have a derangement, this is the test pool for anything that having to do with your with your derangements. And then your blood points. So every character is going to have a pool of blood that they use, and this is how you power everything from waking up in the evening to doing your powers to healing yourself. You want to keep track of this very carefully because you only get so much blood at any one time. And that depends on the potency of the vampire. A vampire who is 13th generation only gets to hold 10 blood points in their body, and they can only spend one at a time. So that means if you want to heal yourself, you can only spend one blood point at a time to heal yourself. So you heal very slowly. Whereas a 4th generation vampire is going to have some god awful amount, and they can heal much more quickly. So pay attention to that blood point pool, because when you start getting to the bottom of your blood point pool, you have to go feed so you can re-up your blood point pool. Now the first game you're in, you will always be full on your blood points, but you have to spend downtimes in between games to make sure you come into game fully up on your blood pool, unless you have the background of herd, and then you just get that. You just tell us, I'm using a herd, and we're like, great, you're full up for the night. If you don't do either one of those things, you're going to be at half your blood pool coming into game, and that's not a fun happy time. Makes you kind of cranky. It makes you very hangry. You're a hangry vampire. So again, your current willpower, your current humanity, your beast traits, your derangements, and your blood pool. So extras. So extras are different things that your character might run into. Not every character is necessarily going to be using any one of these. So some characters, such as the Tremere, they have thaumaturgy, which gives them access to rituals. If you have a ritual, your ritual will be listed right here. If you have some other spiffy thing that your character can do, often we'll put them right there. And so if you see that and you see that there's something in that box right there, come and ask your clan coordinator. Chances are high that you have something cool and spiffy, and that's all that's about. Tremere, all your rituals will be here. Every Tremere, by the way, has something called Rite of Introduction. Rite of Introduction is a ritual that allows you to telepathically say hi to all the other Tremere in the city. And you want to do that when you enter a city, because if you don't come and say hi beforehand, and then they'll try and kill you. So, just as a note. So the next box I'm going to direct you to is one that is called Boon, Spawns, and Vinculum. Now, boons, bonds, and vinculum is something that you're going to run into much more in game, and you won't have to deal with vinculum that much because that's a Sabat reference, but boons and bonds you will. So what a boon is it's the most basic form of currency in the Camarilla economy. Yeah, money's great, sure, but what's that compared to favors? Yeah, I much prefer you owing me something than giving me money. Especially when you're a vampire who's, a couple hundred years old and you have a really large bank account. What is money to you when you can just have somebody owe you for the rest of eternity? So, this is the area you would record boons in. You can see on the box that there's an area called name, there's an area called level, and there's an area called date. Now, boons come in different levels. They come everything from the most trivial of boons to minor boons, major boons, blood boons, which is you're actually shedding blood uh, uh, in exchange for something, or life boons. You owe someone a favor because they saved your life. Um, and these are kind of the economy, as I said, of the Camarilla. If you will want to have a boon on somebody, and you'll want to to owe someone a boon. So because in the Camarilla, you're not trusted unless you're part of the economy. So most of you will want to owe someone something because that builds a level of trust between you and that other person. And then you'll want to own boons on other people. You want them, being beholden to you. So, anytime you do anything for another character, you should be thinking in the back of your head, what can I get out of this? Like what can they give me that makes it worth my while to do this thing for them? So once you've all agreed on what the boon is between you and you've gone and shared that with the harpy, who is the banker of all boons, then you will note it on your sheet and you will put the name and you will put the level of boon. Is it a trivial, major, minor, blood, or life? And you'll put the date, and the date that the boon was given, so that you, the player, have a record of it. Now, yes, if the harpy is worth their salt, the harpy is keeping a record of all boons themselves, and they have it somewhere in as a player in their records. But you can't rely on that because harpies notoriously cook the books. Okay, so you, the player, will want to know what your boons are so that you can go back and say, no, 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 the prince owes me a major boon. I know because I wrote it down. And I think that the harpy's up to shenanigans over there if they're saying that it's only a trivial. So this is how you keep track of all your boons. If you need to record a boon on your sheet, just let your clan coordinator know. So up to this point, we've been primarily looking at the tab called the print sheet. Now, if you look at the bottom of your character sheet, you'll see different tabs because this is a Google Docs form. So just like in Excel, it has different tabs. And the print sheet is basically the sheet that if we were to print it out, that's the sheet you would get. But there's some other extra tabs on there that you can see that kind of give you a little bit more information, and I wanted to walk you through those really quickly. And one of them is your XP, your extra points. How do you get to be cooler? We have a tab on there that helps us keep track of all the XP spends. Now, every character at character creation is going to have a certain amount of starting XP. Now, every character starts with 30. And that's what we use to kind of buff up your character a little bit. And what we do, we use this to kind of hyper focus on things that your character might be really great at. So, for example, he's really great at hiding and being sneaky. So we buffed up his alternate identity, and we buffed up his stealth, and we buffed up his quietus and his obfuscate. So all the things that make him, sneaky, example McGassamite. So these are all the ways this is how we do the spends at character creation, and we list them all here. As we put them in there, we deduct them from the total 30, and you can see in there that yes, we have spent every last bit of XP to make your character as cool as possible before we give them to you. Now, sometimes you'll see maybe there's one starting creation XP left over, and that's probably just because of math, because sometimes buying certain abilities or disciplines, it just leaves you with a funny number at the end. The rule states that that really those XP should be used at creation. Some clan coordinators, me, may just fudge a little and maybe use that to give an extra ability. Some may not, but that singular XP that's just hanging around cannot be used past character creation. So if it's there, I'm sorry, it's just going to sit there and annoy you for the rest of all time. Now, you also earn XP just by playing in the game. XP is the way to make your character cooler, to make your character more buff. Give them all the cool things. So anytime you play in game, you earn 3 XP automatically. And those XP can be used for anything you need to purchase on your character. Additionally, we give extra XP for shout outs. So after every game, I put a Facebook post up. I say, tell me your great interactions. Who did you play with and why was it awesome? For everyone who gives us a shout out, you get an XP. So if you had a great interaction and you want to talk about it, I will give you extra points for giving that interaction story, but only one XP. I don't give extra XP for multiple people. But the reason was for that is we want people to shine. We want to hear what were those awesome moments. This is a community, and we want to build that sense of community. So share with us all the good times and great conversations and how much you really liked that one time that other guy nearly hit you in the face with a baseball bat. Um, that's that's what that forum is for. So when you give a shout out, I give you an extra XP. And sometimes I give extra XP here and there for different interactions, or maybe we're doing a big large group interaction, say like a Bruja rant. So there are other opportunities for XP beyond game. Anytime you earn XP outside of game, it will be recorded here, and we'll do a little descriptive of when did you get the XP and how much was it. And once you have that recorded, then it goes into your bank of XP. And there's your bank of XP. So your bank of XP is how much you have just sitting on the books. You do not have to spend XP every time you turn around. You can hold on to it. It is not a one and done situation. Um, the way you spend XP is every month you do downtimes, and downtimes are things your character does in between games. You have a certain amount every character gets. And after you've done all your downtimes, when you're filling out the form, there's a section we put in there that says, hey, do you want to spend XP? If you do, then you just tell us, yes, I want to spend XP for this certain amount of XP for making this really cool thing better. And we'll go and update your character sheet. You don't have to use it. In fact, most of the disciplines and higher level attributes, you'll want to bank your XP to purchase those because they are more expensive the higher you go. And if you're a more potent vampire, certain things are just going to be more expensive for you. So if you're a Tremere who wants to up your thaumaturgy, all disciplines are 3 times the new level you want to buy. So if you want to get level 5 thaumaturgy, you need to have 15 XP in your pocket to buy it. So it's okay to bank your XP. You don't need to necessarily spend it. If you want to know how much XP you have, you can look right there on on the XP tab to see what is my current XP. That number will indicate how much XP you have in the bank. There's also one other place you can find it, and that's on the print history. Remember that part of the print history that has your name, your clan, and who your clan coordinator is? Down there at the bottom it says total XP unspent. That tells you how much XP you have in the bank. You can then go and look at it really quickly there, so you can decide, do I want to spend it this month or do I want to hold it so I can buy all the thom. All right, so some other tabs and that you'll see on there. There'll be a tab that says morality and derangements on it. Um, I'm just going to go through this really quickly because chances are high you're probably not going to look at it a whole lot. But this is just a quick guide for you if you're questioning, like, okay, well, what's the deal with humanity? I would highly recommend going and reading more on humanity in the BNS book. But if you are wanting to know, like, how do I lose humanity or how do I challenge humanity? How is it that I might lose my humanity as a vampire? This is a quick and dirty guide on how it is you can do things to hurt your humanity. And as a vampire, there's a lot. There's a lot of things you can do. Then we also, on that same tab, you also have different guides for frenzy. Frenzy is when a vampire loses all self-control and that beast, that monstrous side of themselves, that raging id just comes out and does things. There are different kinds of frenzies, so this is just quick information on like what kind of frenzies there are and what are the triggers for them and some quick mechanic on how to resist a frenzy, because there's going to be things that are going to try and trigger it and you kind of have to resist it. So this is a quick guide on how that works. Derangements. As I said, not every person will have a derangement. all Malkavians will have derangements. So this is just a quick little table that explains derangements, the derangement concepts, what what are the things that might trigger them, what are some severe reactions, what are some mild reactions. So and this is just helpful information if you happen to have a derangement. Then you'll find a tab at the bottom called History. History is basically what it says. Look at where you are. Look at where you started. Um, Histories, every character should have a history. If you don't have a history, then you go to the person who created the character and say, "What is my history?" We build our characters with history. Some of us build more histories than others. I own that if you get a character built by me, you probably have a history that's several paragraphs long. I am not sorry. I'm a history major. Um, these are just this is the backstory on your character. Like, what is the thought process behind their concept? So, for example, McAssamite here, his history is he had a very sad childhood, and then he ended up a vampire, and that really sucked. Poor example, McAssamite. He just had it rough. It was just rough, rough, rough. Um, Most of you are going to have more than just that in your character history. This is to help you understand who your character is and how to play them. What are the interesting aspects of their back history? Did they have a sad childhood? Was it Dickensian? Did they have a happy childhood? How did they become a vampire? What was it that made them valuable to the clan that they became a vampire in? All that stuff is going to be found in your history. You can also see who created your history, and then you can also see some other interesting aspects of your character. For example, what you can find the concept that's on the front page, that it's going to be always up there for you to reference as well. Again, you'll see who created it. You got your history, and then you'll see down here, most of you will have a sire listed. For some of you, you may not care about your sire. Most of the time, the only person who ever cares about your sire is the prince, maybe your primogen, and then you never have to speak about your sire again. For others of you, your sire is a big deal. For the Ventrue, your entire lineage is predicated on your sire, so you may need to know your sire. Maybe your sire is a pretty cool person. Maybe you have a merit that says, I have a prestigious sire and there's somebody I can call on all the time. Or maybe you have your sire as a mentor. So your sire may be a big deal for you. It depends on other factors in the game. Your embrace date is also pretty important because that tells you how old you are. Um, Additionally, your embrace location is also important. Before I forget, your embrace location indicates whether you're local or not. Many of you are not, but some of you are. So pay attention to that because that explains, have I been in the city this entire time or am I a relative newcomer? If I'm a newcomer, where did I come from? Is it a Camarilla city? Who is the prince there? Who do I know there? I may know. Oh, you're going to Paris? I'm from Paris. Maybe I can speak to that. Pay attention to this. And the reason I went back to discuss this is because in game one, this is going to be a huge deal. If you're a character from Las Vegas, if you're a character from London, you will want to pay attention to that. All right? So, right underneath the section that will have your history, there's going to be an area called starting goals. And these are recommendations, they are not mandates. So, starting goals are really just plot hooks. They're story nuggets that we, the storytelling staff, have created in the character to kind of give you direction, to kind of give you some purpose as you're walking into game. So you're not going, what am I supposed to be doing? There are things that your character has as driving goals, and you, the player, get to go and explore them. Now, you don't have to, but I mean, it gives you something to do. And you may fulfill all these goals, you may fulfill none of these goals because you may get in the game and be like, oh, I'm being dragged off this other direction. And that's completely okay. Um, for example, for he has he wants to go find and kill some schismatic Assamites. Okay. He sounds like a suspicious dude. He may also it looks like if he's discovered, he may be killed for it. So if you get discovered, you need to escape. So that is a big goal for him because obviously if he's if he's a spy and he's sneaking in here, discovery could probably end not so great for him. So goals are nifty ways for your character to try and kind of work themselves into the plot and find some cool things to do. So then we move on to the discipline mechanic. This is a tab that'll say disciplines at the bottom, and this is kind of a cheat sheet on how to do the things. How do you do the things? Like I said on the print sheet, you all have disciplines. Everybody has disciplines. They are the super spiffy superpowers of the vampires, and every number that you have correlates to a different level of the discipline. This tab gives you a quick and dirty cheat sheet on how those disciplines work. So you don't have to necessarily look in the BNS guide to see it, because guess what? This is out of the BNS guide. One of the few times you'll hear me say, you don't have to look in the guide. Right here, we have it for you. So you'll see here at the top that there are pull downs for each of the disciplines, and the one you can see the best is obfuscate, which is kind of funny when you think about it. So, up at where the arrow is, you can see there's a description of what obfuscate is and how it works. What is the pool you need to make obfuscate work, and how does it work against aspects, which is the power that you use to try to see through obfuscate. So it kind of gives you a little bit of an explanation on what's up and up with obfuscate. And then down below, you can see that is a description of the first level of obfuscate, which is conceal. This gives you a description of what the power is and how it works and what the mechanic is on it. If you are going to use the power and you're like, wait, which one's the first one and how does it work and what's my test pool and what if I have the intelligence focus, what does that all mean? You come to this tab, you look right there, and it'll explain it to you. We have this written out for all the levels of the main disciplines you'll find in this game. Some of you may have some weirdo disciplines. Most of you who are new to the game probably shouldn't. Most all of you should have your disciplines listed there. If you find that there's not a discipline pull down for something that you have, feel free to look it up in the BNS book, or I come and ask a storyteller and we'll try and help you out. So then there's going to be a tab that says personal plot. This is all the shenanigans. These are all the things, this is all the plot for your character personally. Because your character is going to be doing things all on their own. They don't have to wait on anyone else. So on this page, you'll find all the personal plot points that your clan coordinator has given you in the past month. So if you had a conversation with someone important, if you went and did an investigation on those super sneaky people in Disneyland over there, if you went and hacked into somebody's computer and found their secret stash of porn, all of that will be listed on your personal plot sheet. If you forgot what that NPC that you talked to was, if you forgot who they were and what their name was, guess what? It should be on that sheet. If your sheet isn't filled in, if that information is not on your sheet, go bug your clan coordinators because it's up to us to put it on there for you. If we didn't, we failed at our job. So go and yell at us. You have my blessing, and we'll try to make sure that information's there for you because that's for you to be able to reference. So above all else, if you need to know how anything works, then make sure you get the By Night Studios Mind's Eye Theater Vampire the Masquerade book. This is our Bible, like I said before. Absolutely our Bible. You can check it out on Drive-Thru RPG. It's there in PDF form. You can order it in hard copy. You know, by all means, go and purchase it. I think right now the PDF is going for about 19 bucks. 1999. So yeah, go get it and carry it around and you're on your phone and game. Buy a hard copy to keep with you. If you get a hard copy, I highly recommend putting your name in it so no one grabs your hard copy. Um, and this is the reference at all times if you have any questions, because we, as your storytelling staff, we try to be as accurate as possible, but believe me, I'm going to forget things. I'm going to be like, wait, how's that power work again? Because there's just so much stuff, and I'm keeping 5 zillion threads going on in my head. So you may be like, well, but wait, Jen, here is the exact discipline page and number, and here's the paragraph. Read it yourself. And then I could say, yeah, you know what? You're right. We did that wrong. So that's why I highly recommend having the book, because at the end of the day, that is the be all end all. That is the word of God, as it were, in our game. And hey, do you want some in depth analysis on everything I just covered for you? Or do you want to know what's up with the brouhaha? Like, how do you brouhaha? Why are they important? Why do they exist? Why do the Venture have to put up with them? Or any other clan. I'm picking on the Bruja because, Bruja. You can go listen to our podcast. John and I have been doing a podcast for a while now. It's called Podcast by Night. You can find it on Podbean and iTunes, and you can also find us on Twitter at By Night Podcast, or on Facebook at Podcast by Night. And believe me, we cover all sorts of things in there. I know we have some episodes in the can that John will be getting out pretty soon, and it's a good reference for any of you who have not read all the mountain of books that White Wolf has put out, and you don't ever want to have to read the mountain of books White Wolf has put out. Go and check our podcast out. So, of course, anytime you have any questions, you can contact us via Facebook at Whispers of the Blind. You can find us on Messenger. I'm at Jennifer Wolf, what it says on the tin. You can find us on Discord. That is your staff. There's myself, Jennifer Wolf, John Long, R.S. Stitcher, and Logan Bose. We are at your disposal if you have any questions. John will probably be the one person you're going to be talking to the most as you get onboarded. But feel free to find any one of us and come say hi, and we'll try to help you as best we can. And no question, there is no such thing as a dumb question. I keep saying that. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Don't feel like you're dumb if you're like, I don't know how physical traits work. You know what? Come ask us anyway. We'll try to explain. So I hope this has been a helpful presentation for you. I hope we covered a lot of ground. And if you made it all the way through this, bravo you. As I said, if you have any questions once you're done here, hit up John, hit up myself, and we'll look forward to seeing you at your first game. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.